G'day gardeners, welcome along to the vlog. We're in the third week of November now. We're just past the middle of spring. We've had plenty of rainfall now and we're starting to make some changes in the vegetable garden. We're pulling old plants out that have matured and we've harvested, and we're starting to plant our summer crops. So let's get into it. So let's talk about the first changes we've made this week. So we've removed the failed garlic crop and I mixed some cow manure into the soil to get the soil ready for the tomatoes, and I let that cow manure sit for about 5 or 6 days and mixed it into the soil, and now I've planted the tomatoes directly into this bed. So we've got 4 here, as you can see, planted them in a square, and I'm going to stake them very soon. I've actually got to buy some more stakes, so I'm moving over to metal stakes and I'll show you those in a minute. So I'm done with wooden stakes. I'm sick of getting splinters, and I don't like the plastic ones, they just flex too much. So I think it's metal or nothing from now on. So those 4 tomato varieties there, that one there is a different variety. I'm pretty sure those 2 are different, but with my tomato crops this year, when I sowed the seeds, I actually didn't mark the punnets. I only had 2 varieties, but I didn't mark the punnets, and then I accidentally mixed the punnets up. You can kind of tell by the leaves, that's a different variety to that one. But that's okay. I'm not really worried about planting things in little blocks of each variety. They're just going to basically grow up stakes, and whatever they are is what they are. So they should be fine. Hopefully they do really well. They've been planted nice and deep because they're a little bit leggy. And so I've planted the stems probably about 1.5 to 2 inches into the ground, and they're doing fine. They're actually transplanted a few days ago and they're doing quite fine. Next to them we've got, in these pots, these potatoes have sprouted in both pots, and they should start growing really vigorously soon. We should start seeing a lot of vigorous plant growth in the next couple of weeks. Those potatoes should be ready in probably about 6 to 8 weeks. So no problems there. And as they grow up a little bit, I'm just going to fill up the soil as they grow up and just fill in a little bit more of the soil just to give the potatoes more room to grow without being exposed to sunlight. Okay, no change here at the moment. The potato onions, they're just maturing out, getting ready to the point where we're going to be harvesting those. These peas are basically done now. I'm just letting these pods dry out for seeds for the next year's crop. I'll plant another crop in late summer into autumn, and I'm just going to let those dry out in there until the pods are ready to, or the peas, sorry, are ready to harvest for seed. This potato is doing really well. This is one of the ones we just got from a packet from Coles. And let's see if we can see anything in the ground. Oh, look at that. There's potatoes in there. You can see the soil's actually getting lifted up by the potatoes growing in it. So I might actually have to top up that soil a little bit. And look at that, we've got another little growth there. I wonder what that is from. I wonder if that's from one of the potatoes that's growing. Anyway, that'll be something to do this week. Herbs are doing well in the pots. Everything actually needs a bit of a water this morning. Leeks are starting to die back a bit now. I'm not sure if they're going to grow to full maturity. I did plant them late, so I kind of expected they may not have gotten to full maturity, but that's fine. But you can actually see on the stems they're actually starting to die back a bit now. I've already harvested one, and we'll probably be harvesting those a bit smaller than normal, but doesn't matter, they'll still be really nice. The onions next to them, they're really starting to mature now, and you can actually see on the actual onions that they're starting to get a little bit of disease and stuff going on. We've got some flower heads coming on, and if I go in here you can actually see they're really starting to fatten up into bulbs now. Like for instance that one right there, you can see that's fattening up into bulbs. So we'll be harvesting those in the next 2, 3, 4 weeks. I'm not 100% sure, but soon anyway. But they're doing really well, and you can see we've got cabbage moss flying around. Okay, I want to talk about these peas. These peas did really well, but I've had this problem with these peas. They don't grow really strong stems. I found the stems to be quite weak and a bit brittle, easy to snap, especially when they're young, and they haven't been able to hold onto this mesh behind them and grow up without actually just getting too heavy for their own connections and then just tumbling off. So they've actually pulled over. I was going to tie them up, but in the end I decided not to bother. I don't think I'm going to actually harvest any of these this year for eating crop. I'm just going to harvest probably just for seed, and next year grow them again and try maybe a different position or just a different kind of frame to grow them on, and see if I can get a better crop next year. So just going to leave them for now. They're fine. Let those peas dry out for seed and we'll go from there. Okay, in the background there, we'll go around. That tomato there, I'm not 100% sure if I'm going to leave that there. Sometimes I've grown volunteer tomatoes before that have turned out really well, and I've grown some that haven't turned out well at all. So I'll probably pull it out because it's right next to the sage, so I do kind of need to pull that out, I think. That plant's doing really well. These are doing really well. Peas. These peas you can see are completely dried out now, and they're starting to dry up completely, the pods. And these ones here are nearly ready to cut off and use for seed. So I'm leaving these as well just to dry out for seed, so I can plant another crop again in autumn next year. Moving around to the front of this bed, you can actually see now I've planted tomatoes in this bed as well. So there's one there, there's one there, and there's one there. These are all tigrellas. Plus I do actually have a volunteer over there, which I think is also a tigrella. The volunteer's actually come up in a good position, so it's not too close to these other tomatoes, that I might actually keep that one. I'll probably pull the one that was over there, but this one here, I'll probably keep that one. It looks pretty healthy, although it is picking up a bit of something from, possibly from the cabbage next to it, which I'm going to pull that cabbage out, and eventually I'll pull these cabbages out. I'm not going to grow these to maturity. I'm just leaving these at the moment, so they're just bait for the cabbage moths. So the cabbage moths leave some of my other plants, like my potatoes, alone. And these are the metal stakes I'm going to use. So I'm going to use these star pickets. I think star pickets are probably a better option for trellising tall plants, especially like tomatoes. I've got 2.4 metre high star pickets, which are really tall. They're rigid, they're super rigid. Bang these into the ground, they're not going anywhere. And then two of these, one there and one just over here, up, and I'll tie some wire between them and tie the tomatoes off to it as it grows up. And hopefully, you know, if I've got a picket there and a picket there, hopefully those tomatoes, that will support them strongly, or strong enough, so that if we get some more storms with wind, that they're not going to tear off or collapse. Plastic ones I'm not a fan of. They tend to bend too much in the wind, they flex too much, and I hate getting splinters from the wooden ones. I don't like working with them. So I think star pickets are the way they go. They last forever. Literally, they'll last forever, whereas the wooden ones eventually will rot. The plastic ones eventually get soft and wear out, or they get affected by the sun as well. Star pickets being steel, they're not going to get affected by the sun. They may rust a little bit over time, but that's not a problem. We can always recoat them. Moving on, we'll talk about the potato bed. The potato bed's doing really well. Potatoes look fantastic. Growth, really healthy. They're already flowering. There's plenty of plants in here. There's going to be plenty of potatoes. I've still got new ones coming through, like that one there. That was a potato tuber that I only put in 2 weeks ago, but that's already coming through. It's struggling a little bit, I guess, because of the lack of light. And I have actually cut some of the lower branches of these away so I'd get a bit more light in there to grow through. I have also planted a couple more tubers in and around here, and I suspect that one there, I suspect I had a tuber come up in there that's been eaten by a slug. Dang it. Let's see, we've got tubers there coming through. So there's going to be, oh look, there's one there. So I've still got a couple more potato plants to come through, which are going to be quite late. So we're going to have a mixture of young and old plants when it comes time for the first harvest. It's going to be a bit tricky, I think, pulling out some of these without disturbing the others, but it shouldn't be a problem. We should be able to do that. So we'll have a staggered crop this year, which is probably a good thing anyway. Now down the back of this bed, I've also put a spare tomato plant in there. I'm pretty sure that's a San Marzano, and I'm going to grow it up this mesh along the side of this fence. And I've got two more potatoes that have come through there, that have sprouted through, two more tubers. So that's that bed. Okay. Moving on now, we're going to talk about my corn, the lettuce and the carrots, and also tomatoes. So I had lettuce in this bed. The lettuce has already started to bolt. These ones are going to be coming out this week. I've already harvested all these. The lettuce was delicious. Like, it's really nice, the little gems. Beautiful lettuce. In their place, I've got tomatoes. I've got a plant there, there and there. And again, we've got the star pickets. One on this side of the bed and one on that side of the bed. I'm going to trial tying between them. So I'm going to hammer these right into the ground as hard as I can so they're nice and rigid. And trial tying wire between to grow these up wire. And what I'm trying to do is essentially just save myself from using too many star pickets, because I've still got a couple more tomatoes in the greenhouse over there, which I'm going to put in the bed over there. And instead of having a picket for each tomato, I'm going to see if I can get away with having just one at each end of the bed and tie a wire between. Now the risk is that the wire is going to sag between. So from here to here, with the weight of the tomato plants on it, it's going to cause the wire in the middle to sag. So I'm actually thinking of getting a third picket and putting it in the middle. So yeah, round about there. And because they've got holes in them, I can turn that picket to the side so the wire will run through the holes on that, and that will hold it up and support it. And I think that'll actually provide good support. These pickets are really strong and rigid. They're 2.4 meters high, so I can really hammer those into the ground and get nice and strong in the ground, and hopefully they'll support the weight of those tomatoes quite well. Now behind them, you can see the carrots are going gangbusters. Carrots look fantastic. They're growing really, really well. We're going to be starting to harvest baby carrots very soon, and I'm looking forward to that. There's plenty there to harvest. What I'm hoping to do, or what I'm hoping to get, is little clusters of baby carrots, say finger width, and about that long, that we can do in meals. And then as we harvest them out, leaving strategic ones in between that can then grow up and we can get some really nice thick carrots with. That's the plan. I'll see if I can harvest it that way. Typically I've found in the past, when they are a bit too close together, you don't get, you get a lot of immature ones which stay immature for a long time for some reason, whilst other ones next to them can mature quite rapidly. So we'll just have to see how it goes, but hopefully we can get a nice crop of baby carrots, and then later on as we thin them out, we'll let some of them grow up to really big mature carrots. Now, moving on to the corn. Corn bed's been quite disappointing. We just had problems with the seed, and I think it's just the vigour of the variety we grew. So we're growing an heirloom corn variety, which is it's not an F1 hybrid. And I've just found the vigour of the plants as they come up not to be that strong. There's plenty of fertiliser in this bed. There's plenty of nutrients in this bed. They should be growing better than this. And last year when I grew Super Sweet F1s, by this time, which is 4 weeks in the bed, they were already about this tall and thick as that, like nearly an inch thick. These ones are just more sluggish and just don't look that good. And I'm pretty positive the bed is good. I have put fertiliser in this bed. We've put compost in this bed. We put cow manure. So I can't see how the soil itself isn't good enough for these for the corn. Last year we grew them in this bed, and they grew gangbusters. And I did the same fertilising regime in this bed last year as I did in this one this year. So I've pretty much put it down to the variety and the seed. So possibly the variety is just not a strong growing variety, and also there's a possibility that the seed really isn't that viable, which is a likelihood considering I'm sowing seed in our greenhouse and the seed that's growing in there hasn't sprouted yet. So I think there might be an issue with the seed. Anyway, moving on. Moving over to the hop plants. Hop plants are doing well. They're moving up the strings really well now. New growth looks good, although there has been something attacking the leaves. Not 100% sure what, but something has been attacking the leaves. I gave these another good fertilise this week with some liquid fertiliser, and just to see if there's any issues with nutrients. But yeah, something definitely has attacked the leaves. I'll keep an eye on that because I've never grown hops before. I don't really know what the common pests and diseases for hops are, but I do know that they suffer from similar diseases to the cucurbit family, so your pumpkins and your squash and your cucumbers. I do know they get what's that mold? Powdery mildew. They do suffer from powdery mildew just like cucumbers and pumpkins. So I've got to be on the ball for that, because I had a bad powdery mildew issue last year with my with my pumpkins. So I don't want that to happen. I want that to grow up and around that trampoline. Moving over to the other side of the garden, I'll show you the size of these sunflowers. These sunflowers are really tall. These two here are 2.25 metres tall. So they're over 7 foot now. They're approaching 8 foot. It's ridiculously tall. I'm literally reaching up just to grab onto this flower, but you can see the flowers are already opening up. Nice flowers. Kind of like a lemony yellow as opposed to like that really deep orange. But growing really well. And this bed's doing fine. It's just basically full of flowers at the moment with herbs behind it. I'll take you up the back fence and show you our apple tree. Our apple tree has now bloomed, and it's got leaves, new growths coming through. This is a Granny Smith, and the goal for this tree this year is to get a nice kind of canopy going, to start to get the shape of the tree going and to strengthen up the trunk, and just get a nice, stronger, healthier tree. That's the goal for this year, because it's still quite thin. It's still a bit of a stick. It's 3 years old and it hasn't grown much beyond this point just yet. So yeah, we're just kind of trying to focus on getting a strong tree. I probably won't let any fruit go to maturity this year. Probably have to wait another year, I think, which probably would be wise. But it's always tempting to let fruit grow in your trees when they're young, because you're just desperate to get a nice crop. So we'll see what happens, but that's the plan so far for this year. And we've got a little cockroach or something on there. Get off. Okay, it's actually time to open this up. It's going to be really hot inside here. Alright, let's take a breath and go inside. Woo, it is hot in here. Oh, we need a good water in here. Just a quick update on the seedling trays. These actually really need a good water. Look at them, poor things. These need to be transplanted into pots. I want to talk about this. These are, gosh, they need a good water. These are my pumpkins. I've got 3 really good pumpkin seedlings coming on now. These are all going to get transplanted this week. In these 3 rows here, I grew the remainder of the seeds of that corn, and they're just not growing. You can actually see they're swelling up, the seeds, but they're not producing growth. So I suspect the seeds are no good, and that's why that crop isn't really doing well. I've already bought a packet of F1 Super Sweets, which I'm going to start planting in the garden this week, so we can have some decent corn. In the back, our Maui purple chilies are starting to come up. They really need a good water. Goodness me, what am I doing? Strawberries are looking really good. I've actually found a couple in the garden this week. I actually picked a couple of little plants out that were growing volunteer in the vegetable garden and planted them in there. The other ones are doing really well. That one's doing fantastic. And over here, tomato seedlings. Geez, they need a water. Look at them, and they're actually getting a bit too hot. See that? I've got to be careful of this now. I'm not getting up early enough to open this, and the sun's beating me up by a couple of hours, and this is really getting hot in here before I'm getting up to open it. So I'm probably just going to start leaving this at night times, just leaving it flap in the breeze and letting the air circulate. The chilies don't care. The chilies and capsicums don't really mind it, but look, the tomatoes are starting to suffer a bit, and even the cucumbers are suffering. They need to get on the ground this week. Geez, they need a water too. I really need to water these. They dry out really quick now. It's getting hot. And now this is the first season I've had the greenhouse properly set up like this, so I'm learning as I go. I really need to keep on top of this, and I'm obviously not. I don't want to kill these seedlings before I get them into the ground, because these need to go in the ground this week. Got those 2 there, they're nice and mature, and then 2 backups here. I can afford to lose a couple of tomatoes, that's fine, but I can't afford to lose those. So yeah, just need to get on top of things, I think. So there you have it, guys. That's the garden this week. It's the 3rd week of October. We're starting to plant summer crops like tomatoes. The pumpkin seedlings are coming on. Cucumbers will be going in the ground, things like that. Rainfall's been really good this month. We've had good consistent rainfall. The days have only been warm. They've actually been below average too. So we're actually only averaging about 23.5 degrees Celsius daytime temperatures, which is actually about 1 degree below average. So it has been a little bit cooler, and we have had the rain again, which has been really nice. I'm trying to get on top of things. I'm trying to keep on top of the greenhouse and my plantings and everything else, which is actually quite difficult. I don't do this full time. I actually have a job. So we all have jobs, and we're all trying to juggle gardens, or most of us are trying to juggle gardens on the side. And it can be quite difficult to juggle your time, to make sure you water things on time, especially as it really starts to heat up in places like where I live in Australia. So trying to keep on top of things and trying not to kill things through unintentional neglect, and also trying to keep on top of my plantings for summer so things are planted on time. Anyway guys, I hope you enjoyed that update of my garden this week. Thank you for watching, and I hope to catch you again next week. Cheers.